Have you ever thought about what happens to the body and mind of someone who chooses a sexless life? Not out of repression, trauma, or moralism, but because of a conscious, profound, and almost silent decision. This video is about a few people, men and women, who have chosen a different path. A journey without sexual relations, without carnal knowledge, without the pursuit of physical pleasure. Before you think of priests, nuns, or monks, let me tell you, this journey goes far beyond religion. Today we are entering the world of those we call the chosen ones, people who live a sexless life and, contrary to what many believe, lack nothing. On the contrary, some claim to gain something that most will never experience. The central question that guides us is this: what really happens in the body and mind of a person who lives without sex for years, even decades? What changes occur in their biochemistry, their emotions, and their view of the world and themselves? There is suffering, there are superpowers, there is peace. But before we can answer these questions, we must understand who the chosen ones are and why they are called that. We are not talking about spiritual superiors or untouchable enlightened beings. We call them chosen because at some point they were chosen by life itself, by an inner voice, by intuition, or by a calling to follow a path that most people do not understand. These people felt their sexual energy could be channeled into other areas: creativity, spirituality, art, and meaning. This doesn't mean they don't experience desire. It means they've learned to manage it differently, in ways few others do. Some come from ancient traditions like yoga, tantra, and Buddhism. Others have never entered a temple, but have found a way to live without sex, in the silence of their own experience. And even without seeking fame, attention, or followers, they are still there, present, intact. Today, you will understand who the chosen ones are, and perhaps you will discover deep within yourself that this universe speaks to you more than you imagined. If this topic has already made you think, please like it. This way, the content will reach more people. Subscribe to the channel to follow the next episodes of this journey, because there are still many deep things to experience. And tell me in the comments what you think about a life without sex. Would it be possible for you? I look forward to hearing your opinion. Have you ever noticed that silence is sometimes worth 1,000 words? Imagine what happens in the mind of someone who decides to repress one of the most intense urges in human nature: sexual desire. When a chosen one takes this path, something begins to change slowly and often invisibly. At first, it may even seem difficult. The mind, accustomed to constant stimulation, tries to resist. It demands, it provokes. Desire doesn't disappear overnight. It manifests itself, knocks at the door, whispers memories, creates fantasies. But over time, something changes. The energy once dissipated in erotic thoughts, desires and external needs begins to fade. And when this energy stops being fed as usual, it doesn't die. It transforms. Many chosen ones report a marked improvement in their mental clarity, as if their minds are clearer and less agitated. It's as if, after closing several browser tabs, everything suddenly becomes clearer. You feel more focused, present, and inner calm. Conscious celibacy, unforced and unguilt-inducing, allows the mind to escape its automatism. You know, the restlessness that comes from constantly waiting for something. Someone, a meeting, a message, a contact. It disappears. Gradually, the mind stops seeking pleasure, and fear gives way to peace. But it's not magic. It's a process. And like any deep process, this one also presents its challenges. During the first few months, the mind may seek to compensate by overworking, overeating, and distractions. Irritability, insomnia, and even sadness can set in. After all, sex was once an emotional outlet, a safety valve. When that door closes, other inner doors open, and what lies beyond isn't always pleasant or enjoyable. At this point, many give up, because celibacy doesn't chase away inner demons, but invites them into dialogue. Those who accept this invitation begin to see their own dark sides more closely, old weaknesses, forgotten traumas, childhood fears, but they also discover something precious: a space of presence, self-control, and personal power, independent of any person. Some describe this experience as a withdrawal of the soul, as if the mind were finally returning fully to the body, as if without the constant noise of sexual desire, it could hear what had previously been silent: intuition, creativity, connection to something greater. This is why so many artists, Sages, spiritual leaders, and even inventors have practiced periods of abstinence throughout history, not out of hatred of sex, but because they knew that the stillness of the body, at certain moments, opens the doors of the mind, and in that stillness, insights, revelations, and directions emerge. Living without sex for a period of time or even a lifetime is like diving into yourself and discovering what remains when desire subsides. And what remains can surprise even the most skeptical. There's much talk about the effects of celibacy on the mind. But what about the body? What really happens inside us when we don't have sex? Do our hormones go haywire? Does our body suffer, get sick, or get stronger? This is one of the most frequently asked questions and, at the same time, one of the most widespread myths. Some claim that sexual abstinence is harmful and causes the accumulation of toxins. Others swear that it prolongs life, strengthens health, and even rejuvenates. So who's right? The answer, like almost everything about humans, isn't that simple. Let's break it down a bit. During frequent sex, the body produces a cascade of hormones: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, prolactin, and testosterone. It's a veritable biochemical cocktail of desire, connection, and reward. When sexual intercourse is interrupted, the body not only deactivates these hormones, but also adapts. During the first few days or weeks of abstinence, it is common to feel increased tension. Testosterone levels may temporarily increase, especially in men, as if the body were trying to rekindle desire in the hope of satisfaction. But over time, in the absence of sex, the body gets the message and begins to redirect its energy. Instead of focusing on the reproductive system, this vitality is felt in other areas: greater physical endurance, more energy to train, work, and create. Many who have chosen to follow a program report increased willpower and focus, and even improved posture. It's as if they were more complete in their own bodies. And here's the curious thing: the body seems to store and preserve vital energy. In Taoism, this is called ding, an essential energy consumed, for example, by frequent ejaculation. According to this ancestral view, preserving this energy strengthens the organs, the immune system, and even life expectancy. Of course, much depends on how the person handles this energy, whether they repress it, deny it, or feel constantly frustrated. The body suffers. Cortisol, the stress hormone, can increase. The buildup of tension can lead to anxiety, insomnia, and body aches. But with awareness, channeling, and a clear goal, the body flourishes, and breathing, skin, and attitude change. It's as if the body learns to circulate sexual energy like an electric current. Without having to discharge it outward, the person becomes more magnetic, more centered, and more vital. In fact, modern studies have already begun to examine the effects of NOAP, a movement that encourages men to avoid pornography and masturbation for extended periods of time. Many report improved self-esteem, greater mental clarity, and even improved physical and social performance. Yes, a life without sex transforms the body, not as a punishment, but as a reorientation, like a kind of natural intelligence that reorganizes everything internally by realizing that the goal of life is no longer desire, but presence. And the chosen ones know this. They don't fight the body, but rather live alongside it, but take a different direction. A question has loomed since antiquity. Could it be that by distancing themselves from sex, man awakens something greater within himself? An invisible force, a kind of spiritual power? Could it be that sexual energy, if not exhausted, can be transformed into something sacred? The great spiritual traditions of the world affirm this. From Tibetan monks to Indian yogis and priests, of desert mystics, Christians and Sufis, and even alchemists and Taoist masters, all spoke of the same thing with different words. Sexual energy is sacred and, when not used for physical pleasure, can nourish the soul. But it's not just poetry. It's a real experience, and many chosen ones feel it in their bodies, minds, and, most importantly, their souls. In deep celibacy, lived with awareness, discipline, and determination, a shift in direction occurs. The energy that previously flowed outward, seeking contact and orgasm, literally begins to rise. In yoga, this is called Kundalini, a latent energy at the base of the spine that, once awakened, rises through the body's energy, channels, and activates the centers of consciousness, the chakras. When this energy arises, the body vibrates differently. The person feels inexplicable thrills and sudden insights. The heart expands and perception sharpens. Some report visions, lucid dreams, and states of ecstasy without contact with anyone. In Taoism, this practice is called transmutation of sexual energy. It is as if semen or sexual fluids are transformed into inner light. And this light, according to the masters, nourishes the brain, the spirit, and longevity. It is an inner alchemy, the true magic that is invisible but palpable. But be careful. This does not mean that everyone who lives without sex will achieve enlightenment, nor that simply stopping sex will be enough to reach higher spiritual levels. That's all it takes. It takes intention. Discipline is essential. The key is not to repress, but to channel. Desire repressed by anger or fear becomes a shadow. But when it is accepted and redirected with love, it becomes power. And this power is not used to dominate others, but to transform oneself. Many chosen ones report an expansion of consciousness over time. They begin to see the world more clearly. They develop empathy, intuition, and sensitivity. Some begin to heal with their hands. Others write, paint, meditate, and teach. It is as if the energy once lost in instinct is now transformed into a mission. And even if no one sees them, even if the world finds them strange, they remain determined because they no longer seek pleasure but presence. And in this presence, spirituality ceases to be a distant idea and becomes a natural state of being. Sooner or later, every chosen person reaches an inner crossroads. It is the moment when they realize that simply avoiding sex is not enough, that denying desire does not solve the problem, that repression is not synonymous with transformation. This is the turning point. This is where many fail and few succeed. For at the beginning of the journey, celibacy may seem like nothing more than abstinence, like the decision to stop something, to repress one's urges and silence one's body. But the body cannot be silenced so easily, any more than the mind or instincts, the product of centuries of animal evolution. And then conflicts, erotic dreams, intrusive thoughts, and terrible desires arise. It's as if a person's inner energy grows stronger the more they try not to think. And if we try to control it through violence, guilt, or fear, we fall into a vicious circle, repression. Repression is like setting fire to a closed box. Sooner or later, this box breaks, and many give up. They turn to sex as a safety valve, feel guilty, beat themselves up, and forget that it's not about repressing desire, but about transforming it. Transformation is something else entirely. It's like taking fire and transforming it into light. It's about recognizing desire, looking it in the eye, feeling its power, and instead of following it, channeling it in another direction. Many chosen ones learn this gradually. It's not a magical step, but a daily process. They begin to understand that the same energy that awakens desire can also awaken creativity, that the impulse that once sought pleasure can transform into an impulse to create, write, meditate, train, and heal. Some practice conscious breathing, others meditation, and still others channel their energy into art, work, and service to the world. They all have one thing in common. They don't fight their desire. They transcend it. And when that happens, something radically changes. The body is no longer a battlefield but a temple. The mind no longer resists and flourishes. The soul, for its part, breathes more freely. Repression makes you smaller. Transmutation makes you larger. And therein lies the true power of the chosen ones, not because they feel nothing, but because they have learned to transform everything. There is a place where no one can lie. Not the chosen ones, not the saints, not the most disciplined masters. This place is called the unconscious, and it speaks every night through dreams. When a person consciously and intentionally chooses a life without sex, the body adapts, the mind adapts, but the subconscious resists. Behind the scenes of the conscious mind, desire persists and seeps into dreams. This is why, over time, many who choose this path report an increase in erotic dreams, intense fantasies, and even physical sensations during sleep, such as chills, arousal, and yes, sometimes even nocturnal ejaculations. But what does this mean? It means that desire hasn't disappeared, and it doesn't need to disappear. It's simply changed location. In dreams, the subconscious reveals what still needs to be addressed, accepted and understood, not as an enemy, but as a messenger. Sexual energy, when not expressed physically, seeks symbolic outlets. It appears in unlikely images, people, and situations, and not because something is wrong, but because something is alive. The serious mistake would be to interpret these dreams as relapses or, even worse, as signs of weakness. In reality, they are an integral part of the process of purification, reorganization, and integration. The ancients already knew this. In Tantra, for example, erotic dreams were considered manifestations of Shakt, the creative energy that rises along the spine and purifies the energy centers. In Tibetan Buddhism, monks learned to meditate even in lucid dreams, observing these images without identifying with them. And in mystical Christianity, many saints describe their nocturnal visions as tests of the soul, invitations to self-control. In other words, it's not a question of not dreaming, but of knowing what to do with the dream. Some chosen ones begin to use dreams as part of their spiritual journey. They write them down, study the symbols, and observe the patterns. Others simply breathe and let them pass, knowing that the subconscious mind is recalibrating, eliminating excess and releasing pressure. Over time, dreams evolve, becoming more subtle, more symbolic, less driven by desire and more by integration. It is as if the mind, once heard, ceases to cry out, and the subconscious, once respected, becomes an ally. Living without sex does not mean living without desire. It means living at peace with it, even where it still lurks, as in dreams. For the truly chosen one does not flee the shadow. He listens to it, honors it, and little by little transforms it into light. There's a centuries-old belief that sex is the center of human vitality, that a life without sex is half a life, cold, lonely, empty. But is this really true? Does a person weaken when they stop expending sexual energy? Or is it the other way around? Most people will never know the answer, because they've never lived long. Enough without sex to feel what happens after the absence, after the abstinence, after the discomfort. But the chosen ones know. They live on the edge of this mystery, and almost all of them say the same thing. Energy returns, but differently. At first, there's a drop. The body feels strange, the mind rebels. The routine weighs us down. Everything seems to slow down, as if something essential is missing. But what's missing in reality is only a reorganization. It's like a dam. You close the floodgates, and the river stagnates for a while. Then it closes again. And when you learn to direct the water, it moves mountains. The energy of the chosen is neither frenetic nor explosive. It's not that euphoric, dopamine-charged energy that requires constant stimulation. It's a denser, calmer energy. It sustains, supports, and focuses. Some report a feeling of increased physical strength, vigor, and control. Others speak of a magnetic presence, as if they walked into a room and everything changed. It's not about appearance, but vibration. Unwasted energy begins to radiate through other channels. The gaze becomes more focused, the posture straighter, the breathing deeper, the voice more assured. This is what many call the life force. And it does exist, but for most it is fragmented, scattered among 1,000 distractions, automatic habits, and addictions to instant gratification. But for a select few, this energy becomes concentrated, centered, and this center becomes solid, unshakable. This strength, of course, comes not simply from the absence of sex, but from the conscious transformation of that absence. For when desire is simply repressed, the body weakens. In fact, it becomes frustrated and sick. But when desire is accepted and redirected, the body awakens to new life. Some train, others meditate. Others develop projects, serve the community, teach, heal, and write. And this is precisely where its energy becomes inimitable. It is not seductive like sex, but magnetic like truth. And anyone who approaches it feels it, even if they do not understand it, even if they do not know why. The chosen ones do not shine by excess, they shine by integrity. For all the energy that had escaped returns to their deepest essence, and something ignites within them, something that the world is no longer accustomed to seeing, but which has never ceased to exist. When the chosen ones decide to live without sex, they quickly realize that denying desire isn't enough. Desire doesn't just disappear. It's a living, powerful force waiting to be revealed. So how can they transform this energy without drowning in it? The answer lies in the techniques they learn and apply. Practices drawn from ancient traditions and modern experiences, all focused on controlling, channeling, and transforming desire. One of the most important is conscious breathing. Deep, conscious breathing calms the body and mind. Each inhalation soothes anxiety, and each exhalation releases tension. When an impulse arises, deep breathing helps you avoid feeling overwhelmed. It helps you observe without acting impulsively. Meditation is another powerful technique. Sitting quietly and observing your thoughts and sensations without identifying with them trains your mind to strengthen itself, like a serene warrior on the battlefield. Over time, this practice helps you understand that desire is fleeting, a wave that rises and falls not in order to be obeyed. Additionally, many people engage in intense physical activity, such as working out, running, yoga, martial arts. Any movement that helps transform pent-up energy into productive energy. The body in movement is a healthy and powerful outlet. There are also creative channels to tap into the desire to create. Write, compose music, paint, and dance. When sexual energy transforms into art, it manifests in the world in beautiful and transformative ways. It's a way to give meaning to one's inner life. And finally, community and support. Those who choose know that the path doesn't have to be lonely. Sharing experiences, listening to stories, and finding people who understand and support strengthens resolve. It's much easier to face cravings when you feel less alone. These techniques, combined with a clear intention, a goal greater than the craving itself, create a safe inner environment, a space where cravings don't dominate but participate, where the body doesn't suffer but thrives. It's a difficult path, but one rich in discovery, transformation, and growth. And those who choose it know that it's not about repressing desire, but rather about mastering it. Going long periods without sex isn't just a physical or mental challenge, it's above all a profound journey into one's mind and heart. And this journey turns everything upside down. Your thoughts, your feelings, and even your perception of yourself. At first, your mind may be restless and feverish. It's normal to experience intense, sometimes confusing desires that seem to want to control your thoughts and feelings. This restlessness can generate anxiety, frustration, and even irritation. After all, your body and mind are accustomed to seeking quick gratification and relieving tension through physical pleasure. But over time, something changes. The mind, once tormented, calms down. Thoughts become less repetitive. The heart opens to other joys: silence, true community, a sense of peace. On the other hand, prolonged celibacy can also lead to profound emotional challenges. Feelings of loneliness, need, and even sadness can arise, especially if the person lacks a clear sense of purpose or strong emotional support. In this situation, many chosen ones are confronted with their own inner ghosts, insecurities, fear of rejection, and self-doubt. But what distinguishes those who succeed on this path is their ability to look at themselves with compassion and accept these feelings without judging or running away from them. It's a daily practice of self-love that develops emotional resilience. Many people report that over time, they develop greater emotional intelligence, the ability to perceive and name their emotions and understand their origins. They learn to transform fear into motivation, sadness into reflection, and loneliness into self-awareness. This inner transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, sometimes painful, but profoundly liberating. And the incredible thing is that many chosen ones discover that by taking care of their mind and emotions, their body responds harmoniously, their health improves, their sleep becomes deeper, and their energy more balanced. Ultimately, lasting celibacy isn't just about living without sex. It's about learning to live with yourself, with all your complexity, its lights and shadows. And for those who choose this path, this is the true accomplishment. The decision to live without sex goes far beyond the body. This affects the very essence of a person's relationship with the world, with others, and with themselves. And this is precisely where many chosen ones face unexpected challenges. At first, it's common to feel a sense of distance, a kind of invisible barrier that seems to separate the chosen one from those around them. Friends, family, partners all remain trapped in the cycle of desire, physical affection, and sensual intimacy, often without understanding this choice. They may even question, judge, or withdraw into themselves. For their chosen partner, this creates a sense of social loneliness, which affects not only sex but also emotional connection. They perceive themselves differently, as if they're on a wavelength that few others can grasp. However, being single can also pave the way for deeper, more authentic relationships. By not focusing on physical pleasure, conversations become more authentic. Emotional connection becomes more present. Many people show greater sensitivity toward others, an empathy that goes beyond the superficial. In romantic relationships, celibacy presents a paradox. On the one hand, it can deter potential partners who seek sexual relations as a basis. On the other hand, it attracts people who seek a true, spiritual connection and respect the other's inner journey. It is important that the chosen ones communicate their decision clearly and lovingly. It is important to face judgments without losing one's own truth and, above all, to develop self-esteem and self-respect, because a life without sex can be challenging. It is an expression of autonomy and meaning. Some people join communities of like-minded values, spiritual groups, support circles, and shared meditation practices. In these spaces, they find acceptance, understanding, and true friendship. Ultimately, celibacy doesn't isolate, it redefines relationships. This challenges our understanding of intimacy, love, and presence. And for those who embark on this journey, a connection is created that goes beyond the physical, a profound bond of respect, light, and authenticity. When we talk about the rare people who live without sex, many questions arise about the impact this choice has on the body. Does prolonged celibacy improve physical health, or does it carry hidden risks? The reality is that the human body is a complex machine with an incredible capacity for adaptation. When sex disrupts routine, it doesn't disappear from the body. It reorganizes itself, which can bring both benefits and challenges. Among the most commonly cited benefits are increased focus and energy. Without the constant hormonal fluctuations associated with sexual desire and stress, many people feel more balanced and less tired. Additionally, sexual abstinence can reduce the risk of certain sexually transmitted infections and diseases. Another positive aspect is the feeling of greater control over one's bodily urges. Some practitioners claim that the discipline of celibacy contributes to better posture, greater body awareness, and even a stronger immune system, thanks to the reduction of chronic stress. But it's important to be honest. Prolonged celibacy can also carry risks. If it's not practiced consciously and in a balanced manner, a lack of sexual relaxation can lead to physical tension, especially if practices aimed at channeling this energy, such as exercise, meditation, or breathing techniques are not practiced. These tensions can manifest in some people as muscle pain, irritability, insomnia, and even hormonal imbalances. Additionally, a complete lack of sexual stimulation can affect blood circulation in the genital area, which in extreme cases can lead to discomfort or dysfunction. This is why many experts recommend celibacy as a choice that comes with self-awareness and self-care, understanding the body's signals and respecting boundaries. The secret of the chosen ones lies in listening, in the ability to perceive the body, understand its needs, and use tools to balance the flow of vital energy. They know that celibacy is not a passive renunciation, but an active practice of transformation that involves the body, mind, and soul. And in this balance, the body finds its true strength, not absence, but conscious harmonization. Throughout history, many great teachers and sages have described celibacy as an effective means of spiritual growth. However, it is neither a rigid rule nor a punishment. It is a profound choice that opens the doors to a different, more complete, more connected, and more peaceful existential experience. In Buddhism, for example, celibacy is a way to overcome the desires that confine the mind. Monks learn that sexual desire is just one of many currents that draw us into the cycle of suffering, samsara. By renouncing this current, they seek a space of inner freedom where consciousness can develop without distractions. In Christianity, saints and mystics also practiced celibacy, a sign of total devotion to the divine. For them, this renunciation was not a loss, but a gain, an opportunity to live in direct communion with God, without mediation. Celibacy then becomes an act of pure love, a devotion that transcends the body and reaches the spirit. In the tantric tradition, celibacy can be a phase of strengthening inner energy, opening the way to an even deeper union, not between bodies but between the soul and the cosmos. The masters teach that sexual energy, is the same force that creates the universe, and that, when harnessed, it can lead to enlightenment. However, all teachings share the idea that celibacy is a means, not an end, a tool to expand our perception of reality, deepen our self-knowledge, and live in harmony with who we are beyond the body. Those who follow this path know that celibacy transforms their worldview. It invites them to look within, to question what is truly important, and to discover a presence independent of external stimuli. And in the silence of this presence, something happens. A peace that is not simply the absence of conflict, but a bright light that illuminates the entire being. The chosen ones do not live in vain. Each step of this asexual journey is a seed planted in fertile soil, not only for themselves, but also for those around them. They carry within them a silent, almost invisible, yet immensely powerful legacy. A legacy that is not measured by material goods, fame or status, but by the example of strength, confidence, and authenticity. By choosing a life full of meaning, free from fleeting impulses, they showed us that it is possible to inhabit the world differently, that true freedom lies not in instant gratification, but in self-mastery, that the body is a sacred instrument that can be guided by the mind and soul. This legacy touches us all because it challenges what we accept as normal, what is imposed on us as a necessity. It questions the rules and invites reflection. Must desires always be granted? Is pleasure the only path to happiness? Is there a higher power within us that transcends all of this? The chosen ones respond with their lives, their presence, their silence, and their light. They seek neither to convince nor to prove anything. They are simply living the truth they have discovered, and that in itself is a revolution. For all who embark on this journey, it is an invitation. Look within yourselves, question your own limitations, and recognize that within you resides a power capable of changing your life and, who knows, the entire world. For the legacy of the chosen belongs not only to them, but to all those who dare to seek beyond the obvious, something greater, something eternal,